researches that was done by Father Bocheński. These researches are from field about connection between theology and formal science. The most important question in this field is: can we use formal logic in theology? Yes or no? And what is way of using this in this field? The quinque viae are the 5 ways regarding 5 arguments regarding the existence of God. They can be found in the first part of Summa Theologiae. This the Summa Theologiae. We have 5 arguments. The Summa Theologiae has been constantly analyzed and commented. At first glance, it maybe seems surprising that Aquinas' text, especially the content of the Quinque Viae, has been analyzed by use of formal logic. For some people, it is an invasion of a gate crusher. For another, it's a pointless operation for various reasons. Origin. The idea to utilize the new tools of logic and mathematics in the area of philosophical and theological reflection started at the beginning of the 20th century. We have a question: can we use formal mathematics in philosophy? This question is from the Warsaw School. We have a paper that was written by Awdkiewicz, by Łukasiewicz. In this time, at this time appeared the first attempts to apply logic to philosophy and Catholic theology. The concern the proof of ex motu for the existence of God is the first way. Its author was Father Jan Salamucha. The work was revived rather critically by Father Józef Maria Bocheński. The further research in the field interested in was conducted by so-called Krakow cycle. It started in 1936 during the third Polish philosophical meeting in Krakow. Apart from Bocheński and Salamucha, its members were Jan Franciszek Drewnowski, Bolesław Sobociński. The aim of the group was to adapt the achievement of contemporary logic to philosophy and Catholic theology. It can be treated as a kind of specialization of the Lwów Warsaw School in the field of Thomistic thought. Father Salamucha's death in the Warsaw Uprising, Father Bocheński's and Sobociński's emigration contributed to ending the active work of the cycle. We have Father Bocheński, Father Jan Salamucha, Jan Drewnowski, and Bolesław Sobociński. Father Bocheński was a Dominican priest holding the PhD degree in philosophy and theology, and a logic teacher at the Angelicum in Roma. Jan Salamucha held PhD degree in philosophy. He was a priest from Warsaw. He studied at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow. Franciszek Drewnowski was a student of Tadeusz Kotarbiński from the Warsaw School. He was a philosopher. He was an editor and publisher. Bolesław Sobociński was a professor, a philosopher and logician, and he worked at the University of Warsaw. He had many with formal logic and was a sort of expert in this field for the cycle. The most important achievement of the Krakow cycle includes the logical analysis of St. Thomas Aquinas' proof of ex motu for the existence of God, the analysis of the notion of analogy, the logical analysis of St. Thomas Aquinas' argument regarding the immortality of the soul, the monograph of history of logic, the works promoting the Christian thought and new ways. We can ask if the work of the Krakow Cycle was the first time that the Summa Theologiae has been analyzed with the use of the tools of logic. It appears that it was. Also, Father Maria Dominique Cheny, an expert of Thomas and St. Thomas Aquinas' works, noticed that certain logical analysis of the Summa Theologiae understood in the broad sense were carried already in the 16th century. What they mean was the work Legislationes Formales in Summam Theologiae St. Tome, written by Serafino Caponi della Poretta. The works Serafino Caponi della Poretta, its text. According to Cheny, Poretta interpreted Summa Theologiae by means of syllogistic formulae, turning the text of the Summa into dialectic armature. In my opinion, it's not true. We have in title, we have Eludationes Formales, and we have de maiore, de minori, but I think de maiore, de minori in this paper is not major term and minor term, but it's the type of recommendation. I think that Cheny suggested this title, and this is part of the analysis done by Poretta. In the last year of his life, Father Boński returned to the ideas of the Krakow Cycle. The fruit of his work was the formalization of question 2 to 11 of Summa Theologiae, including the formalization of the Quinquevia. In fact, there are certain analyses conducted by Father Boński and dated to 1953, it's the manuscript of this, but they remain unverified and have not been published yet. I think Father Boński forgot about this. Sometimes we used to forget about papers and books who wrote. It's kind of formal analysis of Quinquevia. The full analysis of the 5 ways conducted by Father Boński were first published in the article The Fünf Wege. The text was also published in Polish and in English. Also, they are found his book Gottes Dasein und Wesen logische Studien zur Summa Theologiae, which was published in 2003 after Father Boński's death. Along with the revised version of the formalization of the Quinquevia, the book includes, among others, formalization of the further question from the Summa and the preliminary axiomatization of the theory of the absolute, as well as the logical analysis of Kant's criticism of this cosmological argument. The analysis that we are interested in can be also found in the manuscripts in the book mentioned before. It's one German manuscript and one in Polish language. Thus, basically, we have 3 versions of the formalization. It is necessary to remember that the one from the book, version 3 from the book, was not authorized by Father Boński. It also concerned the text in the English translation of the article. And when we have changes between versions, we don't know what is Boński's changes in version 3. We can ask about the way Father Boński carried out his analysis. After he had given what we talk about formalization, we talk about formal analysis. What is this method? After he had given the list of abbreviation, we have the paper from article. Bojański give the list of abbreviations. Next, inference rules and general remarks. He identified individual sentences in Aquinas text and gave them numbers. They pointed to the question, article, and paragraph. After the preliminary commentary, Father Bojański tried to reconstruct this Thomas Aquinas argumentation in the language of the predicate calculus. We have some analysis, some reconstruction, and we have a formal reconstruction. In this reconstruction, he identified the premises and among them empirical premises, ontological premises, and definitions. In the case when he used a rule of different of inference, it wrote which one it was and to which line of the reconstruction it referred. After the formal reconstruction, there was the final commentary and conclusion. This reconstruction is a kind of translation from natural language to formal language. After each part of the analyzed text, for instance, the 5 ways or question 311, Father Bojański provided a final summary in which he analyzed the discussed practical assumption as well as the utilized inference rules. So we have translation, we have reconstruction, and after that we have final remarks about premises, about logical remarks. The free version of the formalization at times differ from one another consequently. In the case of the 5 waves, we have the following abbreviation, inference rules, and final formal reconstruction. We have difference in sometimes in abbreviation, sometimes in inference rules, and sometimes in formal reconstruction. What is conclusion? This conclusion from Bojański. The secunda via is valid in certain principles of Aristotelian ontology and are assumed. The other ways are formulated in this question are invalid the physics because it rests on an unacceptable physics, the 5th and 5th because of logical defect, and 4th because it includes a false premise. This evaluation obviously does not preclude the possibility of including these proofs. Perhaps we felt of ideas from other parts of the summa. For example, he used another part in the 5th way. Another conclusion. The argumentation is mostly progressive deductive, but occasionally regressive deductive. There is no trace of induction, as is sometimes claimed in works of this subject. The role of this formal analysis. The formal analysis of Quinque carried out by Father Bojański are the implementation of idea which entered the members of Krakow Cycle. However, they are not perfect. They include numerous minor mistakes, which are of secondary character. Boyansky loved to compare something, to compare type of inference rules. But in the reconstruction inside this analysis, Boyansky made some changes, and after that, these changes not be noticed in his remarks, his conclusions. Kazimierz Ajdukiewicz distinguished two general concepts of formalization. According to the first of them, formalization is a sort of translation of natural language into a symbolic one. In this approach, formalization tends to preserve the meaning of the translated text. In the second approach, formalization introduced postulates ascribing meaning to particular terms in an arbitrary way, not paying attention to the meaning the terms held in natural language. Thus, in certain formal analysis conducted to the members of the Krakow cycle and Father Boyansky himself are called formalization. They mean a sort of translation into formal language done for the sake of analysis and discipline in this discourse. The first two ways were analyzed very precisely, the other few with a smaller precision. The implementation of the project to apply formal logic to philosophy and theology, thus they are part of the program of the Krakow cycle. They are an attempt to recreate certain arguments in formal language. Among the premises, to distinguish empirical premises, ontological premises, and definition. Father Boyansky pointed to the formal resemblances between the particular ways. Father Boyansky analyzed in detail such terms used by Aquinas as Deus and Mulvetur. Father Boyansky's analysis points to the significance of distinguish between minimal elements and prime element of certain relation. It was important, for example, in the first way. The reverse certain formal structures identified in the field of ontology. What was continuation? First type of continuation was formalization by ways. Is, for example, Johannes Bendiek, Francesca Gerti-Bardot, Ivo Tomasz, Ivo Salvaggi, Laurent Larouche, Pullman, Edward Clark, Korneliusz Policki, Edward Nieznański. Some among the ones that directly refer to Boyansky's achievement, we can list the ones that were analysis of his last formalization and attempts to construct nuance, Edward Nieznański, Ula Świętowiecka, and I. Very interesting is way of analyzing that was done by Paul Weingartner, professor from Salzburg. He analyzed the quick idea similar way as Bocheński. He started with Latin text, translate in English, as he distinguished premises and conclusion, and he pointed he wants to reconstruct this argumentation in formal language. What is specific in this analysis, Paul Weigertel wrote the first task of his book is to show that the 5 ways of Thomas Aquinas can be presented in a form in which all 5 ways are logically valid arguments. For Bocheński does his research and show that in his he thought that, for example, the 3rd and 5th way is not correct on the basis of formal logic. A totally different continuation on the goals outlined by Krakow-Saikov can be identified by in some of Nieznański's works. His aims has been not only the translation of certain arguments from the field of philosophy and of theology into formal language, but the creation of formalist theories, for instance, the formalist theory of classical ontology or the axiomatic approach to the problem of theory of God, God's omnipotence and evil. We have in Nieznański papers we have some kind of semantic tool. It's not translation. Everything began with the evolution of logic, with conversation between Father Lamucha and Mr. Drewnovsky, who was converted to God, and which the first few clumsy lines about God writing in formal language. In this story of the meeting between logic and the philosophy of God, a specific primum movens seems to be Father Józef Maria Pański. Thank you very much.